When it comes to sportswear, Nike is by far the most popular and most influential brand in the world. One guy once dreamed of making the world a better place over 50 years ago via footwear. Today, that dream has become a global business worth more than $100 billion. Today, we'll look back into Nike's roots to see where it all began and identify the factors that ultimately led to its success. It was 1962, and Phil Knight had just obtained his degree from Stanford. Business school alums will tell you that coming up with a great idea is one of the most challenging aspects of starting a business. Yet, that's precisely what Phil had. He ran vast distances in college and submitted a report for one of his business classes, in which he offered a hypothesis discussed here. Phil considered the success of Japanese cameras in the American market, and he speculated that Japanese footwear would one day overtake the dominance of Puma and Adidas in the United States. To Phil's knowledge, Japanese cameras had supplanted their German counterparts as the market leaders in the United States. After submitting his theses and graduating, Phil became fixated on bringing Japanese footwear to the United States. Not only did he not own a pair of Japanese running shoes, but the few pairs he had seen had been brought to the United States by forces stationed in Japan during the occupation that followed the conclusion of World War II. However, Phil was further convinced that he had stumbled across a tremendous potential since the option needed to be more generally recognized. For him to benefit from it, he knew he had to initiate communication with the Japanese company and negotiate terms for importing their goods into the United States. He was utterly unqualified to do any of these things. Nonetheless, in a way, that would define the man who would go on to build Nike. He sucked it up and did it. In November 1962, he went to Japan, undercover as a tourist, and started exploring the nation immediately. While taking a leisurely walk around Kobe, he stumbled into a shoe store that attracted his curiosity. The company was called Onitsuka Tiger, and its shoes were ahead of their time in terms of quality. So Phil was excited to bring them back to the States. He met with the company's founder member under the guise of a shoe wholesaler from the United States. Phil made up a company name on the fly and proposed becoming Onitsuka's U.S. distributor. It's possible that Phil was taken aback when the owner of Onitsuka agreed to Phil's proposition. Phil, relying primarily on his confidence, has become the official distributor for Onitsuka Tiger in the United States. In 1963, he acquired his first batch of Tiger shoes and started selling them out of the trunk of his car at any local running tracks. That's when his booming business got its start. When it came to footwear, Bill knew of no one more knowledgeable than Bill Bowerman, his former coach at the University of Oregon. Bill sought advice from Bill Bowerman after realizing his method was unscalable. Bill was unquestionably one of the most well-known trainers in the United States at the time due to his role in preparing multiple athletes to compete in the Olympic Games. He wanted to work with Tiger shoes since he was a considerable brand admirer. Therefore, in January of 1964, Bill and Phil created Blue Ribbon Sports with an initial investment of $500 from each of them. They spent it all on 300 pairs of shoes that cost $3.33 each, which was their first investment. The shipment got there in April 1964, and thanks to Bill's connections, it was all gone by July. BRS made $8,000 in its first year of operation, money which Phil invested in expanding the company by hiring a sales force. After earning a combined $20,000 in 1965, they wasted no time setting up a company in Santa Monica. Although Phil was in charge of business operations, Bill was the creative force behind the company's success. He single-handedly brought running to the United States. He wrote a book on the topic in 1966 that went on to sell over 1 million copies, and his company was among the first to market Tiger running shoes. Because Bowerman was so focused on progress, he would disassemble several pairs of shoes from each new shipment Onitsuka brought him. Then, he could improve the shoe's design by adding more cushioning or using lighter materials. He was essentially helping to design Onitsuka sneakers from the ground up by constantly communicating with the company's headquarters in Japan to share his thoughts and seek modifications. What do you think of the video so far? We would love to hear your thoughts on Nike's history in the comments section. Hopefully, you're enjoying the content. If you want more videos like this one, remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's go back to the video. In 1968, when the Olympics were held in Mexico, a shoe that Bill designed and dubbed the Cortez became a bestseller. BRS was able to bring in $300,000 that year because of the popularity of Cortez. Even still, there was a severe problem. The Cortez was so well liked that manufacturing needed to catch up with demand. Onitsuka continued to ship fresh batches out at the same snail's pace despite consistently strong demand. In reality, Onitsuka was serving the requirements of its Japanese customers first and then shipping over any unsold inventory to its American purchasers. If Phil and Bill wanted their business to thrive, they knew they had to do more than act as a distributor. When their contract with Onitsuka ended, they realized they could begin producing the Cortez independently since it was Bowerman's idea. As luck would have it, their contract was slated to expire in 1972, just before the Olympic Games in Munich. Phil had a lot of time to get ready for this permanent relocation. In 1971, with the support of his first employee, he began the branding process, which resulted in the creation of the brand name. Corporation founder Bill Bowerman named the company after the Greek goddess of triumph, Nike. When Phil realized his firm needed a logo, he went to the nearest university, approached the first graphic design student he saw, and hired her on the spot, giving her detailed instructions on developing a logo. The swoosh logo set him back a remarkable $35. After finishing his branding, Phil was ready to participate in the Olympics. Thus, it turned out that he had spent his money wisely. Instead of signing exclusive contracts, Phil established a nationwide network of subcontractors in Japan this time. After taking charge of production, Phil was free to pursue other interests. Thus, Phil began importing shoes from his Japanese subcontractors even before his contract with Nike terminated in 1971. From then on, Nike's narrative is mainly one of growth and expansion. They became the most profitable sportswear company in the United States. They propelled themselves to the top in 1989 by signing rookie players who would go on to become famous all over the world. Their marketing strategies, including the Just Do It campaign, were top-notch. That's all for today. So what do you think of Nike's backstory? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this content, remember to give this video a thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you still need to. See you at the next one. And cut!